Okay, it's the top of the hour. I think we can begin. Thanks for joining me for this Introduction to Confluence webinar. My name is Tony Hartsfield, and I am a certified Atlassian professional and a business consultant with Expium, which is now a Valiantis company. And Valiantis is a platinum solution partner with Atlassian. In this next hour, we're going to take a dive into Confluence. We'll start with really the basics, just in case you're new to the tool itself. But then we're going to discuss and demonstrate how you can really leverage the features of Confluence in your context of your teams and your organization itself. So we'll first by starting off talking about what is Confluence itself and how this tool is structured. And then we'll spend a brief time looking at some of the basic editing capabilities that you can use in the tool, but then start moving into how this tool can be leveraged for reports on your projects, for instance. It can also be used as a content portal for a department, and I'll show you another space for that. Another great use for Confluence, by the way, is that for those of you that are using Jira Service Management for your help portal, this is also where knowledge base articles are stored, so that when your customers are at your help portal making a new request, the knowledge base from Confluence seamlessly integrates with the request form to potentially help them find articles related to their type of request. So we'll talk about that as well. And then once we've seen how the tool behaves and some of the functionality, we'll probably need to talk just a little bit about governance, because you're going to see that Confluence is highly extensible. This also means it needs to be wrangled a little bit by humans, and so we'll deal with that. And then we'll try to finish up at the end of our time with enough time for Q&A in case I've touched on something that you then have a further question to respond to. And as you're thinking about your questions, there is a Q&A module on the meeting toolbar. And so if you have questions that you'd like to submit throughout the session, feel free, and I'll touch on them at the end. But let's first off talk about what is Confluence. And by the way, we're in it right now. Confluence is essentially a tool that has wiki-style editing capabilities, which means that it then can be a documentation tool, an information sharing content area, and essentially, and those two combined can make it a powerful reporting mechanism for your teams, for your departments, for your organization, and all. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, for those that are using Jira Service Management, this is also where your knowledge base articles are located. As I mentioned earlier about how extensible this tool is, that's really one of the great benefits about this is that, along with many of the other Atlassian tools it provides, it's highly customizable and it's flexible, which means that we can it's likely to be able to suit your organization's needs with efficiency and meeting the culture of your climate. And that's really what makes this useful. Again, it takes some guidance then to be able to use it with some sense of continuity, but that's part of what being adults do, doesn't it? Let's talk about the structure. If you are familiar with the Jira products, Jira Work Management, Jira Software, Jira Service Management, even those are work in what are called projects. That's the container. And then inside of the container, the project are what they call issues or pieces of work. Well, in a similar type of idea, Confluence is based on something called spaces. And then inside of those spaces, they contain pages and now some other content. Now, in full disclosure, this is a cloud instance, and this is also at the premium license level, which means it also has a couple of additional features like calendars, like analytics, although analytics is now going to be standard with the standard license of Confluence Cloud in the near future. But calendars is a premium feature. There's a couple other things that I'll probably highlight as we go through our hour together that are unique to cloud itself. So for those of you that are in a server or data center instance, it may not look quite the same, but a lot of the features are very much the same itself. Um, so these tools are very customizable, as I mentioned before, and so now you're looking at a space and you're looking at the pages that are in it. You can also have attachments assigned to it, or you can link to those other documents in there. An example here then is, what's the purpose of this then? Well, prior to having a tool like Confluence, the question is, where do your people get access to their content? They ask a question about a policy. Well, did you go to our policy page on the intranet? They ask about a form. Well, we sent that to you in email 4 or 5 months ago. What did you do with it? They ask about an approval process. Well, you need to go to this person on the 4th floor. And so what you have is information that is spread out all over the place, and people have to just simply figure out where to go to get that information. What Confluence does is, with a single connection, your people go to Confluence, and then they reach out and find the information they need, because all that is linked to your Confluence there. So it's really designed to centralize, to help communication be smoother, and to engage your community with the editing tools that you have available. So that's what that's the goal here of what we want to do with this. And then, if that's what we have, spaces, then who's going to use those spaces? Well, we definitely recommend that you actually, before you even get started, that there be a governance team, and they should have their own space with guidelines as to how your organization is going to use Confluence. And then it might be an entire department, and it doesn't have to be IT. It could be HR or accounting, or library, or recruiting. They could have their own space for their communication, with both internally with each other and out with the rest of the organization. It certainly could be a project itself. Again, whether it's IT or not, it could be the project team that's meeting there. It could be a team and multiple projects that are in there. I'll have another example to show you a little bit later in the hour, but options as to who gets to use it. And then there's also the option of a personal space. In fact, by default, in a cloud instance, every new user automatically gets a personal space, so they could either use that for communicating across your organization. If you're using those sort of social elements, they can have their own blogs, they can have their own followers, or it's also a place where temporary files can be held until they're ready to go into the actual instance, the actual space that's going to be in the end. So as we're looking then at what and who, now let's start taking a look at what the tool can do. And first off, let's just simply talk about basic formatting. So if I look at this, and I'm going to briefly open up the editing mode so that you can see the toolbar itself. And so in this instance, these are not tools that are terribly unique. They're common to other wiki style editing tools, but just to let you know, you have the capabilities of different styles of text. So you have headings, which can help with navigation, etc. You have the basic text formatting of bold, underlined, strike through, other things like that. Alignment, color, bullets, and numbering. So you can have bulleted item, you can have numbered items. And then, of course, there's things like just simply text color, all the basic things that you're likely to have when you are working with basic text. Simple expectation of what you might have. There's something called action items. An action item is an internal or Confluence only item that depending upon what macro you might be using, it might collect those action items, like say for instance in the meeting notes index. In that, you can also mention a person, and they will be notified because you at somebody. You can also use dates, and so that's what the action item is allowing you to do. We just simply check those things off. We'll talk about linking and attachments in just a moment. But again, there's at mentioning, there's the use of emojis, etc. Um, as I scroll down this page a little bit further, there's other ways to display the content itself, just the actual physical location of the content on your page. What you're looking at here is what's called a layout, and that's using the layout tool. And so the default is a single column, but you can have 2, 3, or sidebar options, and so that you can actually physically lay out your information from there. You can also generate tables in the tables tool. And in cloud, what they've also made, this is simple tables that you can add columns, delete columns, add rows, format the color behind it. Do you have a header row, a column, a header column? Do you need a numbered a column on the list? And then recently, in this past year, they've added the ability to, from your table data, to be able to create simple charts. And so here is a bar chart based upon that. Here is a pie chart, again, using the exact same data from these two items. And so tables, again, not a lot that's terribly unique here, but I think what you'll find is that this is good functionality within the use of your tool. There is something called simultaneous editing that's available, meaning because it is in a shared location and your people in your organization have permission to view that information. Depending on how you have this configured, the default setting is anyone who can see it can also edit it. So you can actually have more than one person editing a page, and so that's what this is. We've had people come in and make edits to this page, to this particular paragraph at the same time, so you can have simultaneous editing. How we use it with our client projects, we'll have our weekly client meetings with them, and someone will create the meeting page, and more than one of us might be in the page editing, so that while one person is presenting one of the agenda items, someone else is taking notes, and then we can trade off back and forth. And it's a great tool also, just simply when you're out planning. If you're working on a new policy or a new process and you're having a meeting, you can have your team meet together and collaborate on the actual creation of the document itself. So simultaneous editing is a great tool as well. Commenting, you can apply comments. In cloud, you can do that while you are in edit mode or while you're in publish mode. If you're in server or data center, you must be in publish mode, but you can simply select text and comment on it. And the comment then gets displayed here. You can @ somebody. You can also apply many of what are called the macros for formatting even within the comment itself. And so you can comment there. You can also comment at the bottom of a page. Let me scroll all the way down. Or I'll find some more. Or not. Oh, I need to be in publish mode. Let me publish then. So you can see that you can also, when it's published, you have the ability to comment. Sorry to scroll and make you seasick. Here at the bottom, so you can have overall comments. These are threaded, by the way, so that you can have inline commenting and have discussions about the topic, and then start a new one from there. You also have a very full editing toolbar, similar to when you're in a page, and so you can really make even your comments, take advantage of the macro tools to make very interesting pages from there. Let me scroll back up and talk then about linking and then attachments, because that's the next tool that we can do. Especially cloud, I think just really handles linking well, where in many cases, you don't even need to use the link tool. You can just simply paste a link, and then it will give you many options. For instance, this is just a simple link. If I go into edit mode, let me show you again what it looks like. If I paste it, I could paste the link, but then I have other options. I have the link, I have what's called inline, and that's what the difference between those two. This is called a card. It's the same link, but this is now what's called in a card. Here is an internal. This is an inline page link. Here is the same. Here is another one in a card that you can open and preview. But what's really interesting, especially in cloud, is what they call embedding linking. This particular link is embedded. Now I have those same three options of URL, inline, card, but when it's embedded, think about this. This document lives somewhere else. In this case, for us at Expion, we have Google Drive folders. This document is in a Google Drive folder, and similar to this idea of multiple editors on a Confluence page. Well, if you have access to the document wherever the shared location happens to be, I have edit rights to this particular document without ever having to leave the Confluence page. That's pretty powerful stuff when you think about it. It also knows how to deal with embedded media. And so if you have a video, this is a YouTube video, again, it's all, at this point, it automatically embeds it so that people could view the video from the page without having to go to wherever the source is. Again, this is a YouTube page, but what if you have a learning management system and you have video content there? You could embed the link in this page without having to send them somewhere else. If you have to be using, say, a Microsoft Stream server, again, you just need the link and it will embed it in there so that people don't have to leave from there. So again, I think superior tool as far as how it, especially cloud, deals with linking, which might help you overcome the need for attachments themselves. The thing about attachments, and this is a governance question that we ask, is that when you attach a file to a page, by its very nature, what you're attaching is a copy of the original. And if we're thinking about governance guidelines, maybe instead of attaching a document, which you certainly can, it's certainly, there's nothing wrong with it, but you certainly can. But what if you could instead embed the document as a link? But when you do need to still use attachments, maybe you need to attach a policy form, or you need to attach an image of a screenshot or the team members or whatever it happens to be. So what you're looking at here then is another layout. And then in this case, here is a picture, and the picture is using word wrap. So it's wrapping to the right side of the text. Here is an attached PDF document. You can attach, and it will basically, in this case, the PDF macro actually allows you to view this when it's in publish mode, almost like it'll allow you to scroll through the PDF. Maybe you've got a slide deck that you've converted to PDF. You could use the PDF macro here and essentially show a slide deck that way as well. But there's other ways to surface attachments. And one is called a macro called the attachments macro. And so in that case, there are attachments on this page that are not being displayed right now. Instead, we've attached them to the page and then use something called the attachments macro so that you could make those attachments available to your people reading the page, but not necessarily having to see the thumbnails on the page itself. We'll do this with things like if you do have, like, say, a group of policies or a group of decision trees, structure images, whatever it happens to be. And we'll say, view from the list of attachments below, and then you can get access to those in there, including things like downloading all, which compresses all of these into a zip file, and you can then make them portable. I've kind of used the word macro a couple of times, and let me talk a little bit more then about what macros are and what they can do. And sometimes the word macro can be a little intimidating for people, especially if you're coming from, say, a word processing background or something else, and you will it feels like programming, and it's really not. What a macro is in Confluence is a way to either format content, so you alter the look and feel of it, or it's also used for navigation tools. And so that's the basic primary ones. But let me show you a few that come with that are quite useful in Confluence. The panel macros. This is a way to have a background color behind your text, but then the built-in ones are the success, the information, um, um, so info, notes, and these can change just simply by clicking on the different styles as I'm looking at. So success, information, warning, note, error. You can also have your no emoji at all, um, or you can insert your own. So there's lots of great options here that are working on it. And then you have a limited choice of even a few of the other color choices. So this could be, think about it as another way to not just use the panel, but also format your text with color as well. There's an interesting tool called the status macro, and this is just simply a button that you create and maintain yourself. You have a few colors to choose from, and you type in whatever the status button is. So for us, it's to do, in progress, in QA, ready for deployment, whatever you want to do. And then this is a great way to, excuse me, help you, again, further identify, further draw the eye to the content itself. One of my favorite macros is called the expand macro. What it allows you to do is have a title and then and then more text in there. It's a great way to help manage vertical scrolling on your page, especially if you're permitting things like if you have people using the mobile app or viewing this on a tablet. One way to do that is to use the expand macro, where if they know the steps already, they can just see the title of the task, and then maybe if they need to see the steps, they can expand it, or maybe this is a list of policies. This is a list of whatever those statements are. We use it for our statement of work for our client engagements. And anytime they want to see that, they can see those things. Let me go ahead and publish again so you can see some other macros. For navigation purposes, the table of contents, there's something called page tree, which is just showing me pages, and this is not even from this particular space. This is showing me pages from another space. So that if I can navigate to there, plus the ability to search within that page tree for others from there. So great tools. I think you're gonna, they really do help people see, visualize, and navigate throughout the spaces. But what's the main reason why we have Confluence in the first place? Well, it's because we probably have Jira software and we need it to integrate with Jira. How do we have it both ways? Talk to us, Jira talks to us, and then Confluence can talk back to Jira. So let's deal with that. There are a couple of ways to view these ones, and I'm looking at, these are just links. That's all they are. But this is the card link that was created. And what you simply do is, this is the link to it. And this is the exact same one in what's called using the embed option. This got turned on just a few months ago in cloud, but this is really, really powerful because now this issue that's embedded on your Confluence page, as long as you have the permission to see the project in Jira, and two, the permission to edit an issue, well, you could not only see this, but you could actually edit this on the Confluence page itself. Really, really powerful tool. How do you create an issue? Well, you simply select text. And before I had the ability to just comment, I can now actually create an issue. So this is how you create issues to a project in Jira. It must be in the same instance, but that's how you can do it from there. So imagine you're in a meeting and you are discussing items, and as you come up with an item that seems to be something that needs to be tasked to a team, you could select the text and create a task directly off the text that you just placed in there. You can also do it with multiples, with a table we show these things in our one-day um, Confluence boot camp. This is a hands-on structure here, but anyway, just great things that you can do with this. Okay. Um, and then other types of macros. So this is from Jira, a saved filter in the issues list, and it's showing me based upon the criteria. So this is the project, and I'm probably looking for things that are in what are essentially maybe I'm looking at unassigned objects. I'm not really sure what the criteria is. I'd have to open up the macro and see what it is. But this pie chart is using the exact same filter and just simply displaying it in another way. This really is useful when someone actually needs to see the data, or maybe they just need to see a visualization of it to help them understand the scope of what they're looking at. And both are very useful. And so we've seen how we can create from Confluence to Jira. We can also surface from Jira in Confluence. We've seen a lot of the editing capabilities. The next thing I want to do is show you then what all of this might look like. This and take you to another space. And this is a very common way that we communicate with our clients, either in our instance or their instance, preferably theirs, where we create an engagement dashboard. And so this is kind of putting all those things together in a single instance. So what you're seeing here is a layout, and this one is using the calendar macro. And so we've created a calendar. We use calendars in Confluence for project teams. It's not really replacing your main company email calendar, Outlook or Google or whatever it happens to be. But when we're working with our clients, we might want to put in here specific dates related to the project itself. We also might put in there, when someone's going to be out in there. You can also link to Jira issues, whether it's release dates or sprints or an issue due date. You have all those capabilities of doing that within your calendar macro. Remember, calendar is at the premium level of Confluence, whether that's data center or cloud. And then this is a layout, and so a 2-column layout. There's that panel macro again. There's the attachments macro. And then one of the really nice things about, in my opinion, about Confluence, it's entirely possible that your project team may stay in Jira because they're working in their board, they're looking at the issues list, and they're going to be looking at maybe reports and dashboards in Jira and get the information that they need. But what about your stakeholders? What about your project office? What about leadership that maybe doesn't spend much time in Jira? They have a license, but they're not ones actually working in the board itself. And so what you can now do with Confluence is utilizing these formatting tools, layouts, macros, tables, is I can not only have the information from Jira, an issues list, but I can also begin to give context. I can begin to explain why you're seeing the data, giving you ideas to review about it, why this information is important. So you have the ability to manage the message and control the message and interpret the message for your people to help them understand the value or what to do next as far as what your projects are doing. And so because of that, we really like to use Confluence for a lot of our reporting purposes because of these formatting capabilities. You can, if you have the premium level of Jira, which has advanced roadmaps, you can paste a link to a advanced roadmap in this. This is not editable, but it does have some interactivity where I can expand the epics to see the individual issues. And then if, again, I do need to have rights to the project, excuse me, but if I click the link, it would take me to the actual Jira issue if I did need to update it. So great tool here. And then a series of just issues. So this is showing me stuff that's in a done status category, items that are in progress status categories, and then stuff that's still yet to do. And so we'll present this to our clients as, well, what did we get done this week? What's still in progress, and what's coming up still? And then depending upon, again, the type of project that it might be, you might want to have further categories. And so this is actually using for the training aspect of the engagement. Well, we're using a training label here. And so these are the issues in this project labeled training. Here is the same macro being used for a pie chart. Same thing here. INA over here. Now, depending upon how much we refresh this issue in our demo, sometimes it's not an exciting display here, but you get the idea, I think. Here's where we will put in that statement of work placements in there. And so, and really in one location, utilizing the formatting features, this is where we can, we think, help people to come to one location. We used to have different pages, and we might send them over to Jira to see the filter results, etc. With this, we can just summarize in one place. And then during our meetings, then, if I go back up to the top, this is just simply, we take this when we're done with the meeting, and we will export this to a PDF and then attach it to the page so that if anybody needs to see previous meeting updates, because this information is updating every time you touch the page. This is live. But if you need to see a static report, that's where you can do that from here. So I'm hoping that this is useful to you. Again, this is mostly from an IT standpoint. And so maybe you'd like to see a non-IT use of how Confluence could be used. So I want to flip over to another space in this same instance. And so imagine the marketing department. And the marketing department is comprised of 5 teams. So if I go to the team homepage, this, by the way, is a template that Confluence offers. So it's actually literally called Meet the Team. And that leads me into the idea discussion of templates as well. There's over 130 templates in cloud that organizations that have worked with and loved Atlassian products, and as they're using them, they're saying, well, this is how we use meeting notes, or this is how we use decision trees, or this is how we use whatever it happens to be, one-on-ones, documentation. And they have worked with Atlassian and built in what are called templates and blueprints that you can then utilize those templates that are pre-formatted. You even have the ability to customize those so that it even suits your organization's needs even further. And so that's what you're looking at here is the welcome page itself. And then again, this is the department's project report. This is something called page properties. What it's doing is it's gathering information from the 5 different sub projects. You're also seeing a structure of how the pages are built from there. And this is just grabbing information from these other pages and compiling them on this option here for you. Here is another advanced roadmap that they use. So their marketing department, there is an advanced roadmap made up of 1 or more projects that are on there, and they're displaying that information here. But then you can drill further into each team by just simply clicking on it. So each individual team also has their own project page. And this is kind of similar to what you saw on our engagement report page. But again, what is suitable for them to do? What do they need to have that's on there? Okay. Um, and then other things that are happening here as far as other uses, I wanted you to see how you could potentially organize your space itself. And so I'll have a couple more things to talk about when we start looking at the bottom remaining pages. But let me first just take a brief pause um, for a little bit of shameless self-promotion and talk about Valiantis, XBM Valiantis, and talk about what we specifically do. Um, First off, what do we do? Well, the first thing that we do is we train. Um, we offer a webinar like this every Thursday at 11 a.m. Central, which is how you got here. And then we also offer other webinars, sometimes on the same day. We've we've started an initiative on team building and building levels of trust. We have actually one of our consultants. Um, how can I say this without giggling? Um, he is a dungeon master. He is a professional role-playing game leader, and he has utilized those for helping teams grow together, develop levels of trust, how to have a healthy level of conflict as you're working together. And so we've been doing some interesting other types. So we're having the how to use the tools, best practices, but we also talk about some soft skills things as well. Um, um, excuse me. But first off, we do lots of training. And on this events page, which is going to be placed in the chat for you to have, um, you can see the next coming a few things coming up that are that are coming up, including this webinar is just a representation of what a full day hands-on boot camp class is like. And so if this strikes an interest in you and you have interest in wanting to attend the boot camp to actually get to see it and touch it in a safe sandbox environment, that's what this is all about. It is also following a 3-day deep dive into Jira Bootcamp. We go into all things Jira project administration, Jira administration, and it's a really strong, hands-on, great resource tool, again, for best practices, for um, just learning the basics, to learning how to do it better. Uh, Oftentimes we find people who have inherited Jira and they're now the new Jira administrator and they just want to know how to do it. That's what those are. But we have plenty of other ones that are in here. And then anywhere you see where just sign up is our webinars. They're free. And then others do have that. We have a 2-day deep dive into Jira Service Management, how to build it, set it up, uh, create your help portal, even an introduction to asset management. So some great stuff that are on there. So I encourage you to take a look at this page if there's other things you can do. We also happen to have a lot of our content is available on our YouTube channel. And in there, you'll find, again, a lot of our videos. We'll often just have someone says, hey, I just noticed this new feature, and they'll go into the studio and they shoot a 5-10 minute video on that new feature that they were just working with. And we love to share. And so please consider coming and looking at our content as far as from the training aspect goes. But that's only part of what we do. As a Platinum Solutions partner with Atlassian, Valiantis, it can also help with the purchasing of licenses to Atlassian products. And we can make sure that that licensing fits the size and structure and needs of your organization. And so we help a lot of people do that. And then we also do just a lot of consulting. Once someone has acquired and they don't have to buy we don't have to license through us, they already had the license. We do a lot of consulting work where people have now purchased this. They need help configuring it. They need help governing setup. Maybe it has evolved over time and it needs to be cleaned up and restructured. People that move from server to cloud, which is what we're doing a lot of lately, is helping people migrate from the server instance to the cloud instance. People that need to move from another tool into an Atlassian tool, we help with lots of migraines there. And so we just, that's a large chunk of the type of work that we do. And then finally, we discover sometimes that the client's situation is rather unique, and they need this particular tool to talk to an Atlassian tool, and or they want Jira or whatever to suit a particular need within their company, and it's not out of the box Jira. We have a team of full stack developers that have built tools that are currently now on the Atlassian marketplace and have won awards at the Atlassian annual conferences. The most recent one was last year. We were partner of the year. So we're delighted to be of service to you if we possibly can be. You will find on our page itself the ability to reach out to us if you want to contact us. But anyway, enough. Again, back to the content, and enough of this shameless self-promotion. Again, let me go back to the space. So you're kind of seeing the structure here. And while we're here, let me also show you, I mentioned the idea of the templates. Well, meeting notes is a template. And it includes this meeting notes index. And so these are all the meetings from there, what decisions were made. They use the action items, and this is a collection of those. This is just simply a macro. And then you can also say to create the next one. And then the individual meeting notes, this is the actual meeting note template itself. And it comes with the date, the participants, goals, discussion items, action items. What I actually walk people through in the Confluence Bootcamp is for those that they've decided they want to be able to create multiple issues from a table. In Confluence, make multiple issues in Jira. So we might even create a table for Jira issues. And then we can, once the meeting's over, select all of them and create new Jira issues in the project itself. So again, just to give you a couple of ideas from there. This marketing group uses a Miro board. And they simply just display it here. And then people can, whether or not they're logged in or not, for people that don't have Miro accounts, that's what's called view only. And that's great. So you can have anonymous access to those. Confluence Cloud 2 months ago, or 3 maybe, enabled their own whiteboard tool. It's in what's called beta. So your Confluence administrator will have to look into beta features, but they can turn it on. And so now there actually is whiteboarding available to a Confluence Cloud Premium license. And it has a lot of the same functionality. It even has a few templates that you could use. And so again, that might be worth looking at if you are interested in something like that. It also can integrate with, this is a Trello board. Trello, by the way, is another Atlassian product. It's a simple task board that it can be used as a standalone, where you simply move tasks from left to right across your board from to do to done. Several of my colleagues organize their own life using their own personal Trello board. And so it might be something you might want to consider looking at. And then lastly, they have utilized the attachments macros to embed documents from, in this case, a Google folder, but it could be, say, for instance, a Teams channel, or your OneDrive folder, or your Box or Dropbox, or whatever type of online storage spaces you're using. As long as you have shared access to it, you can simply embed a link to the documents. Again, remember, these I have only view only access to, but this one I can edit. So again, just great ideas, I hope, to show you ways that organizations could structure their spaces, and it's not limited to just thinking IT And I'm also wanting to show you that it's not necessarily um, um, there's different ways to approach this. So we saw on the engagement space, that one there's the meeting notes again, a contact list, and then these are just, right now they're just placeholders, but however we might structure what we're doing for the client as far as the project itself goes. And then if you're starting to practice your agile practices and ceremonies, this might be another structure for that. And so we will set this up as we need to with our clients that we happen to be doing with that. Okay. So having said all that, what you've seen is a tool that's incredibly extensible. And what that really means is that before you start jumping into the tool itself, your stakeholders, your administrators, your Confluence administrator, your project office, your C-suite really needs to come together and talk about how you're going to use Confluence. This really is the most important part of a tool like this are people and not the tool itself. Um, and so before you start uh, building, what you really need to do is sit around a whiteboard or a Miro board and map out how you want to do this, um, and how it's going to be used and how it's going to be structured. Um, without some sort of governance, then the phrase we use internally is that it's simply going to amplify the dysfunction that you already have. Um, and so we have to make sure that we figure out how to manage this. And there are some basic guidelines that we cover. We do cover it in our Confluence Bootcamp. But the two guiding principles that you need to think about as far as how you're going to use Confluence is you need to standardize the content for a consistent experience. And so that means things like naming conventions, um, certain pages that you want to require. You want to, navigation tools that you want to make sure that each space has, et cetera. And so one is simply how to standardize that. And then off of that, then the second element is permissioning. Who gets to do what in your Confluence instance? Should everybody basically have admin rights to manage spaces, or are many of your people just consumers? They're not there to add to the content other than maybe comment, but they're really there to be informed from what your organization is. And so those are the two things that we want to talk about when we talk about governance. So standardization, permissioning, um, and what you're going to find then is, depending upon your organization, uh, there may not be just one set solution. And so oftentimes that's why there is a discovery portion for our engagement with clients, is say, okay, we see that you have the tool. Tell us about you, what you want the tool to do. And then we might begin to think about some structures. And then after that, to say, okay, now that we've created this structure, who gets to do this? And that's really where we have that. Uh, that's another part of how one of our services that we can help. And if that sparks an interest in you, please feel free to reach out to us. Um, Even if it just means all we're doing is just having an initial conversation. We love just having those conversations. There's no obligation to that. Just to see if it's possible that Valiantus could bring any value to your organization in its use of Atlassian tools. Um, so Confluence is a very powerful tool. It's extensible. It's great for documenting. It's great for reporting. And it's that great central location for knowledge sharing, whether it's in your your department page, or it's your knowledge base articles for your help portal and Jira Service Management. So um, I've talked a lot. I've moved really fast over this last hour, but we got a few minutes left. And so what I wanted to do then is open up to the QA. Someone did submit a question earlier about the integration with Jira. Hopefully I did demonstrate that, both being able to create an issue from Confluence, and then also to surface Jira information from Jira into Confluence, whether that is a single issue, an issues list, um, a macro such as a chart, a advanced roadmap link, other things like that. So hopefully that answers your question. But let me pause and see if there are other questions. Um, let me highlight a couple of additional features that come with cloud. I mentioned whiteboards. There's also something called, when you're in published mode, there's something called presenter mode, and it allows you to display it as if you were, on a screen for a meeting. You could actually go into the presenter mode and show those from there, which I think is I've actually found myself using it a couple of times lately. Instead of having to put this into a PowerPoint or slide deck of some sort, I can actually just show them the page, and we can scroll through there. You just kind of show you where all the templates are and what's available. There's 131 right now, just out of the box from there. So um, I'm trying to think if there's other things I would like to particularly talk about. Analytics, what analytics does is, and again, this is going to be available in standard Confluence Cloud as well, but it it allows you to just sort of see what kind of traffic your pages are getting. Um, and this could be part of your governance tools as far as how long do you retain information? Well, if it hasn't been edited in 6 months or whatever, should you notify the page owners? If it hasn't been viewed in 6 months, does that kick off a process for you as far as your how long you're going to keep something? And then you have the ability to either you could delete a page, even a space, or you could simply archive it, which takes it out of the active search, but it retains the information within your instance itself. Maybe it can be surfaced at another time, or you just need to reference it if you need to. So that's what analytics can do. It's at the space level. It's also at the page level, where you can also analyze that from there as well. Um, I will have to tell you that Summarize is a brand new feature. And this happens sometimes when we present, is that something happens here. And okay, I do understand. Atlassian has been moving into AI and earlier forages into this tool. And it's can potentially summarize the page for you. Also, based upon these algorithms, if you have it turned on as the Confluence administrator, it can start to suggest other similar pages at the bottom of the page. So you see a lot of that, trying to introduce um, um, AI into the situation so that you don't have to do all the navigating yourself. So that's a new discovery. You can also restrict a page. So a space has permissions itself. First off, the Confluence administrator has what are called global permissions. And then the person who creates the space can set space permissions, who can view, who can edit, who can delete, who can comment. And then even at a space situation where if the page is wide open to everyone in the organization, but you want to restrict it to view only, or even to only a few people can see it, that's what you can do. So you can get pretty granular with the setup from there. There's a lot of space settings, and we cover those space settings in the Confluence Bootcamp itself. Sometimes the other one is that sometimes people ask the question about how can I get a handle on all the changes? Like I said, you saw me just do that, and I literally did not see that button last week. Um, I want to put in perhaps one more link here, And I'll share this in the chat so that Addie doesn't have to. I forgot to mention that, Addie, sorry. For those of you that are interested in keeping up with cloud changes in Atlassian, and Confluence has been really rapid in its changes lately. There's almost something every 2 weeks. So I would like to, just think about that. And so they update it, you're seeing they do release notes every month. So there's a lot of stuff that's coming out that would help you keep up with it, help your Confluence administrators keep up with it as well. We're coming up at the end of our hour. I don't want to just keep going, but were there other questions that you'd like to ask? I hope this has been beneficial to you. I hope maybe this has been, if this is an introduction to XPM Valiantis, hello, and maybe we can have that conversation in the future. I hope you'll consider attending other webinars as well. Anytime that you need, this, by the way, will be placed on our YouTube channel. Anytime you need to bring stakeholders in to review content, it's a great, safe place to go, our YouTube channel, to get introduced to both us as a company, but also lots of Jira concepts and Jira products in a safe way that you can explore how that might be used in your organization. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to end it by saying thank you. Again, my name is Tony Hartsfield, consultant with XPM Valiantis, and you have just finished an introduction, a very fast introduction to Confluence Cloud, especially at the premium level. Thanks for joining me. I hope we see you in future webinars.